So it's KayBeast, and I have something fun and different today. I am going to do a cheap art supply challenge. Since most of my artwork is watercolor, I decided to do cheap watercolor supplies. And I'm actually planning on doing a series based on different things you can find at different stores. And obviously not all of these things are going to be universal because, you know, I live in Massachusetts and some things that are available here may not be available elsewhere, but I think it's still kind of a fun thing to do. So the first thing that I found, I've actually been holding on to this for about a month, wait until I was time to record, was this. This is a little watercolor set that I found at a store called Five Below. I don't know if it exists outside of New England, but I've seen it in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, and everything in that store is $5 or less. This is not sponsored, by the way, or anything. Just, you know, it's a fun little store when you've got no money and you need stuff, and they have art supplies. So this is a little watercolor set, and it's got like a whole bunch of stuff in it, and it was exactly $5. And I thought this would be fun as a little cheap art supply challenge. So I'm gonna open it up, and I guess we'll see what's in here. I have been really looking forward to opening this. So, got a little case and a little thing that tells you what's in it. I'm just gonna tell you myself. So it's got a little case, and oh wow, that's nice. Let's flip that around. And here's everything that's in it. Well, that's cute. Okay, so let's take it apart and check out what's in here. So you got your case, and inside the case was a packet of watercolor paper, a graphite pencil, an eraser, a pencil sharpener, a paintbrush, and 6 tubes of watercolor paint. Lemon yellow, crimson red lake, Prussian blue, sap green, black, and white. So these four are commonly used in most watercolor sets. They're very basic colors. Crimson red lake, it's pretty good. Lemon yellow, I'm not seeing any cadmium stuff, but sap green and Prussian blue are good colors. I have them in my current watercolor palette already. The black and white, it doesn't say what pigment is being used, whether it's Mars black or titanium white or whatever. It doesn't say on this thingy either, but I don't think it really matters in the end. For professional watercolors, the pigment used in white and black does make a difference in how it dries and how opaque it is, but considering the fact that this was a $5 set, I'm not going to worry about it. And then lastly, the little plastic thingy it came in doubles as a mixing tray. So that's pretty cool, and it all comes in this little little carrying case. And when I was there was a whole bunch of other things. They had sets of acrylic and drawing sets and everything, but like I said, I wanted to try out the watercolor. So I think I'm going to test these materials out now. Alrighty, let's take a look at this paper first, because the paper really does make a lot of difference. It's not very large. I'd say this is probably about 5 by 7, which is not a bad size for beginning stuff. Okay. Looks like it's glued at the top. Paper is not pure white, it's sort of a grayish, but it's not bad, but it feels thick-ish. It doesn't say what weight it is, but it feels thicker than sketch paper, which is good for watercolor. It's not as thick as my 300 GSM paper. I'd probably say the thickness is pretty close to my mixed media paper, which is 160 grams. It feels about the same, but it's got a rougher texture. So that's interesting. So paper is not as disappointing as I thought it was going to be, and there's quite a few sheets in here. There's 6 sheets of paper, which isn't bad, and I know the store sells more paper in sketchbooks and other things, so for a little travel set, that's pretty cool. So I think I'm going to take a sheet out and try these paints out. Ooh, okay. Huh. It doesn't release from the glue very well. That's kind of a bummer. Oh well. So let's try this pencil first. It's got a little rubber eraser. Oh, feels pretty standard. Little thingy here. I like my pencils to be really sharp. Let's see how well it sharpens. Whoa. Okay. It's a very hard wood pencil. It doesn't like sharpen it. Okay. I broke it. Let's try that again. Eraser doesn't, the pencil sharpener didn't work so good. I'm gonna cheat and use my electric sharpener. Battery operated, but not very expensive. There we go. Yeah, this, not so good. But sharpeners themselves are pretty cheap, so that's not too bad. Alright, let's try actually sketching something. Well, it says HB, so yeah, pretty standard. Pretty standard pencil. It writes pretty well. Doesn't sharpen very well. I don't know if that was the sharpener or the pencil itself, because the wood feels extremely hard, but still, that wasn't too bad. Let's see how well this eraser does. It's not that bad. It erases pretty well. If you press down pretty hard, though, it leaves a mark. And for like watercolor work, you want light line art anyway. So let's just try drawing a circle really, really lightly. Yeah, that's not terrible. For doing like graphite work with watercolor, though, I would prefer a much harder lead. But this is pretty standard. HB is a standard lead, so yeah, that's not too bad. Eraser's pretty nice. I'll probably hang on to this. I need more erasers. So I think it's time to try the paints now, because I think that's what we were all waiting for. So okay, let's try these paints out. So just have my own cup of water over here. Gonna loosen up this brush. Brush is definitely synthetic, but it doesn't feel terrible. It's a round size 2, so that's a pretty standard size, and it's small paper, so you don't need a large brush. Ugh. It's covered in glue, though. It's got like it came with that little plastic ring most small brushes do, but it's got like some sort of residue on the bristles. It's kind of feels a little gross. Let's just wash that a little better. I don't know. I think there might be something on the bristles, but good enough. So let's check out the paints. Oh, they have this little sharp point thing in the cap. I see a lot of cheap paints have, so you have to actually, like, you know, poke it to open it. So alrighty, let's try a little bit of that. Whoa, okay, it's very thick. Okay, let's see what these do. First, I'm going to try the lemon yellow. Yeah, that's not that bad. It's pretty bright. I just kind of wish the paper was a little lighter, because you can see the gray through it, but it's not that bad. Let's try the red. Okay, well, first downside of the brush, it's shedding hair. Pretty sure that's the brush hair. I've just dyed my hair blue, so it can't be mine. Hopefully it doesn't do that again, because that's one of my biggest pet peeves, is brushes shedding hair, especially in like translucent media like watercolor, because then it's like it sticks right out. It's annoying. Okay, the black is nice and opaque. Let's see how it does with water. It's pretty good. I know why they put in a white. A lot of people like to lighten their colors with white instead of with water, but most watercolor artists don't use white watercolor, only because, you know, when you add, I mean, in this case the paper is kind of gray, so it'd be kind of nice for highlighting, but white watercolor tends to be, you know, really transparent because it's a watercolor, and mixing it with other colors just kind of desaturates it. So a lot of watercolor artists will either use the white of the paper, or they'll use like gel pen or white gouache because it's more opaque and it's better for highlighting. But you know, they included it, so it's not that bad, and it is definitely very transparent, so I may not use this that much. because I'm pretty sure I can get, you know, lighter colors just by mixing these and diluting it with water, which is a better way to do it. And they do dilute pretty well. Paper is pretty good. Let's try loading the paper up with water, see how it does. I do a lot of wet on wet techniques, so I'm just gonna load it up and rub the brush like crazy. And this is like an extreme example. I don't really do stuff like this when I'm painting. Yeah, see the paper's getting torn up a little bit, but it's not like I'm usually like scraping the crap out of my paper when I'm painting anyway. But I do a lot of wet on wet stuff, so. And it didn't bleed through, and even with the stuff it just kind of wrinkled only a little bit, so it's not terrible. You know, it can probably handle more water better than my mixed media paper, which is nice. So, alrighty. So that's the first intro. So I think I need to do some sketching now. I'm going to be using my own pencil just to come up with ideas, and then in my sketchbook, and then I'll actually like use all of these materials to create a final piece using this paper, and hopefully I can get a piece out of it better without ripping the edge, because that would be nice. I might have to peel up the cover, but anyway, so far so good. So I will come up with a concept and then come back to it. Okay, so a couple of things. The first thing I noticed is the pencil drew very, very dark, even for like an HB lead, and the paper did not handle erasing very well. Even just lightly erasing some guidelines, the paper got a little torn up. So yeah, not great. So I tried to keep my lines as light as I could, like I was barely touching down on the paper, and I tried to just, you know, do the basics, and then I did minimal erasing afterwards. So about the subject matter, my brother's been playing a lot of Undertale lately, so I've been watching, and I also watched Jacksepticeye's playthrough of Undertale again, just because I really like the story. And I decided to do Frisk and Kara. So I can't play the game myself because my laptop can't handle games. It's amazing. It's a miracle that it can handle Photoshop at all. So I'm just not gonna run Steam and risk it dying. So I need to upgrade. But yeah, with the actual like watercolor, it was actually pretty good. Like the colors were really pigmented, which I was surprised. Obviously the quality compared to like my Winsor Newton Cotman isn't really the same, but the pigments are good. They blended pretty well. They did have a bit of graininess to them, but that's kind of what happens when you have cheaper watercolors. The only downside is because I had my pencil under drawing, there was a lot of smearing of the pencil underneath. So like, I think it would have been better if I had done line art and erased it. But again, this paper did not handle erasing very well. And in places where I did the heaviest erasing, which was around the faces, it just got all muddy and weird from just the eraser. So yeah, that was kind of a bummer, but I tried to salvage as much of it as I could. The paper, again, didn't handle multiple coats of water too well, so I tried to keep it simple. But like I said, like the least disappointing thing was actually the watercolors themselves in the eraser. I actually like how the eraser works. The paper just doesn't take it too well, so I kept the eraser, and I'm just going to use that for other stuff. But yeah, the watercolors themselves weren't bad. They were pigmented. Even with just the basic primaries, I was able to mix a brown and a skin tone. Kind of. You can't really see it too well because the paper's kind of grayish and there's pencil smearing in there, but you know. But the red, the blue, and the pink were all really, really bright. The yellow, not as much, but that's okay. So yeah, that was pretty cool. But yeah, you know, I think, you know, for like a starter set of watercolors, considering the fact that the entire kit was only $5, it's not that bad. I'm just used to more high quality products. My biggest complaint about the entire thing was the paper. I think if the paper were a little stronger, it could even handle the erasing of that dark pencil. But yeah, that was the biggest disappointment, was the paper. So getting a slightly better paper would probably be easier and cheaper than trying to buy nicer watercolors. So yeah, I mean, even my Canson watercolor paper that I use was only like $12, and there's like 30 sheets, and it's actually pretty good. So, you know, it wasn't too bad. It was a fun little experiment, and I do plan to do more cheap art supply challenges because I saw a bunch of other kits like this in Five Below, and I've seen things at other stores I want to try out. So I think this is definitely going to be like a series where I just go to different stores and find different things and try them out. So yeah. But it was fun. I got to draw some characters that I like, and it was a cool little experiment. So yeah, I think that does it for this week. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Recorded. Because running my screen capture software and Photoshop at the same time, my computer's not fond of it, so I'm trying to limit how often I do that. Also, you know, I don't want to stick with... Happy birthday! That's it.
Oh, and what do you got there? Wait! Wait!
What's that?
Tell me gift card.
Yeah.